5-minute penalty to Chicago, a game misconduct, and then Manson having words with Steven. And now Butcher gets into it. We're going to have a brawl, folks. Stand by.
What's up, everybody? Tyler Cash here, PBS legend, coming at you with another episode of Fourth Line Goon Hockey Podcast. Hanging out in my apartment here in the middle of the desert, chatting with my boy Tommy about some hockey. How you doing, bud?
Good. I'm sure it's like 30 degrees cooler over here, closer to the ocean than what you're dealing with, I'm guessing.
Yeah, 110 degrees.
Oh, 40 degrees, mind you. It's like 7. It's like what? I'm looking at my computer. It's 71 right now.
It's it's not bad. At night, it cools down significantly. It's been actually feeling amazing, and my pool finally opened, so I've been utilizing that, going down to the pool during the day, the hot tub at night. It's been great. But yeah, as I mentioned, we uploaded onto our YouTube. I am a PBS legend. I joined the ranks of Bob Ross, Arthur, Mr. Rogers. I think Pee Wee Herman might be involved in that as well. But if you haven't seen it, check our YouTube. If you're a local here in Vegas, I did a segment with a show called Steam Camp, and we talked about the science of hockey. Real fun, great. It was awesome to be a part of that. And I've also just been kind of going around to schools in the local area and showing kids how to play hockey. It's just been a blast. So yeah, other than that, I've just been taking in playoff hockey. Game 1 of the Stanley Cup Final didn't really go the way we both wanted it to, I guess. But I mean,
it went the way I expected.
Okay, so you expected the Avs to win Game 1?
I mean, it just seemed like it's been outside of the. I mean, I'm trying to get back to the first round. I'm blanking with the Lightning, but it just seemed like lately it's more of just like, oh yeah, we've been here, we got this. Oh shit, we lost. All right, let's turn around, sort of a thing. So it's kind of like same old, same old.
They needed to wake up a little bit.
I mean, sort of. I mean, also, again, there's the altitude situation. There's a lot of stuff. Obviously, Avalanche are significantly more rested than the Lightning going into this too. Potentially more healthy. Bumps and bruises probably aren't there as much. But yeah, I mean, I think it's safe to say the Avalanche outplayed them, and rightfully so. I mean, obviously they tied it up, went to overtime. It's anybody's game at that point. Avs took it off of like a really kind of broken play. But yeah, I mean, I fully expected Avs to win Game 1. Game 2, I don't. If Tampa loses Game 2, I don't think they're going to have the same sort of situation where they're going to win 4 straight against the Rangers.
Yeah, they definitely need to split in Colorado before they come home, and that's a big important factor. They need to come back home with at least one win. They're the severe underdogs right now. It's like they're plus 220 on Sportsbook to win the series, which is just crazy considering with that lineup and the fact that they've already won 2 in a row. I could definitely see a 3-peat happening, or a 4-peat for Pat Maroon, St. Louis native, shout out. But yeah, Vasilevsky didn't look very sharp. There was a couple of pucks that just slipped by him that he would have normally had. So I don't know if this is just start to the series, and he's got a little bit of these shakes and jitters or what, but I would consider even that game-winning goal kind of weak, right? Like, I mean, he thought he had it, but I mean, in that case, you better flop back down. You better cover as much of that net as you can. Had he just fallen backwards, we might have gotten a little bit more of overtime.
I mean, it was just I thought it was like a weird broken play, in all honesty, like just a weird bounce right to Burakovsky. And then obviously Vasilevsky's at the top of his crease. I don't think anything he does there, short of Burakovsky were to like hesitate or something, I don't foresee anything changing. I think that game was over with that opportunity. There's no change in it, but obviously they won. It's is it this game where they have 2 days off, so they don't play again until like Saturday, or is it the following? Because I know there's one sort of break where it's 2 days long for the series, if I remember correctly.
The next game is going to be Saturday. Correct.
Yeah, so okay. So they played Wednesday, then they play Saturday. Then that's every other day. Okay, I figured.
Weird gap to start the series, and then also to have like that break. You're not really allowing teams to have momentum.
Yep.
So that might shift in the favor of the Lightning to potentially steal game 2 there in Colorado.
Yeah. I mean, we'll definitely see. I think there's, aside from the game itself, I'm not a fan of ESPN's broadcast.
Oh yeah.
I would rather go back to NBC, as shitty as that is to say. I'm just not a fan. And then I'm not a fan of the patches either. Like they're like,
oh no, you know what, dude?
Don't say Stanley Cup. Like this, what the fuck?
You know what? I got to disagree with you there. I thought they were hard, dude. I didn't like the logos separate, but I think I like how it doesn't have the Stanley Cup logo, or like it doesn't say anything on there. It just has the cup. It speaks loud to just have it on there. I thought it was cool. I didn't like it in like a layout, like when it, like at the bottom of the screen, or when they're using it in advertisements. It didn't make much sense to me because they had the logo and then below it said Stanley Cup Final, like just like a lame font. So, I mean, I'm glad they didn't add a font to it. I mean, the actual logo itself doesn't have it on there. So I thought it was hard. It kind of reminds me of like Blades of Steel, like early 90s Nintendo kind of vibe. I don't know where I'm getting that or what the connection, or maybe like the early 90s Kings logo, kind of like the, what do they call it? Chevrolet logo kind of thing. It just seemed clean to me. I like how there was no font personally.
I like the wordage, but then it's also like if a team wins, like, how teams do their own patches, like with their logo and stuff, like what are you just going to do? Put their logo on the cup and not say you're a champion on it? Like, it's just, I don't know. I'm not a fan.
Well, I'm sure they'll adapt it for other use, but I mean, yeah, I can see where you're coming from.
Can't wait to see where the fuck it goes when advertisements get here too, mind you.
Yeah.
So that's gonna be shitty.
Moving forward, I don't think they should use the logo. I wasn't a fan of it to begin with. I think that changing it up was nice just to kind of give it some, like, spruce it up just a little bit. But like, yeah, like as you said, like what are you supposed to do? Add your logo to it, not have like champion to it? It just seems kind of like lame. I see where you're coming from on that. Like, how do you evolve from that?
And it literally looks like took the LA Kings logo and just put a cup. That's
yeah.
It.
But I'm not a Kings fan, but I think that logo is tight. Like, I like that it has that like weird kind of 16-bit look. Like, it looks like it's from a Nintendo game. I see what you're saying, but I think it looks good on the jerseys personally. If you're a Lightning fan.
Side note, one more thing there. Let me add this to it. Sick and fucking tired of seeing goddamn gambling ads all over the ice, and I can't even get Stanley Cup Final on the ice. Horseshit.
Oh, yeah.
Absolute horseshit.
I can't believe they don't have the logo for the final. Like, really? Like, it's going to cost you that much to have it on the logo, like, or on the ice? It's just ridiculous.
Like, even if you put it around the face-off circle or you put it somewhere, come on, you can't even superimpose it. Like when you don't have ads, you can't even put it on the glass when you don't have ads. Like during the game, like come on, it's
right. Like, you're not really drilling the intensity of the game. Like we know because we're fans and we know that these are two juggernauts of teams, but a casual watch on ESPN, which is what we're trying to grab anyway.
So yeah, my point is, without reading the banner saying Stanley Cup Final on the broadcast, there's no indication that you're watching a Stanley Cup Final game on the ice, on the jerseys, none of it.
Yeah, it's not even anywhere.
Not a fan at all.
Yeah, I can see that. But this is their first year, so maybe they'll be able to take notes. Maybe they'll take notes.
It's not going back. It's not going back. Let's not be naive.
I'm not saying it's going to go back, but like, let's look at it in a sense that they might figure out a way, like you said, to put it on the glass, or just figure out ways to kind of throw it out there.
They won't. Well, money talks.
Right. Yeah. Well, if you're a Lightning fan, I wouldn't freak out. I say the Lightning take game 2. I think that was a wake up call. The best thing that could have happened was a complete blowout. I think that would have been the biggest wake-up call for them. But as you said, they're kind of just gliding. Like, they're on cloud 9 still. They won 2 cups in a row. They're having fun with it, which they could use to their benefit. But also, as you said, they need to wake up. Maybe they need the Stanley Cup logo to be right in their face to let them know that where they are, right?
Yeah, no kidding.
So yeah, as I prediction, I'm staying with it. I still think that Tampa pulls it out. I think that might be a wake-up call for Vasilevsky. So there were some dumb penalties too. That 5-on-3 was
It was whack.
questionable.
It wasn't. Yeah, I mean, some people were calling it a dive. It wasn't a dive. I think if he doesn't even touch him, he's falling already. Like, just a bad call on the Makar, the blue line. Like a tap on the. I mean, even if he taps him on the thigh, you really think that's enough for who
A
everyone
5-on-3.
renounces as the best skater in hockey is just going to fall over? Like from that, that's yeah.
And you don't want it to be. You don't want it to be a deciding factor of a game and potentially a series either. Like what happened to let these guys play, and we're not seeing that at all this postseason. We're not seeing them fight, and we're not seeing them let them hash out their own business. Yep. We're seeing a lot of penalties called this year. It's unfortunate because now we really aren't seeing much of a difference in the postseason, as we always said. Oh, that's playoff hockey, baby. Like we're really not seeing that. It's just kind of skill competitions back and forth, which makes sense because we don't have a grinder this year. It's two skilled teams against each other for the first time in a long time.
Shitty as it is to say, Jacob Trouba was the closest we got to playoff hockey all year.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, you say shitty. I thought Jacob Trouba was a beaut. I enjoyed watching him, but
the questionable hits. I mean,
yeah, I mean, no one wants that,
but like my point is like you're clearly seeing like these hits are not really getting penalties called. So hey, I get skill and you get slow. If you miss a guy, you're falling behind the play, but like you're telling me nobody can lay the body or a big hit ever. Yeah. Either way, we'll move on.
Yeah. So let's get into a little bit of news. Coaches and their placement. Bruce Cassidy signed on with the Vegas Golden Knights. As we just learned a couple of hours ago, it looks like as if Tortorella has been confirmed for 4 years in Philly, and one can speculate at this point Trotz is definitely going to be going to Winnipeg. It's just a matter of when they announce that. But yeah, first off, Cassidy, Vegas, love it. I love it. He's a young guy. They had the press conference today. He made it simple. He said, we want exciting, fast hockey. We got to score some goals. I think at one point he even said, I don't want to see them winning games 2-1. We're not made up for this, which is just amazing because all the fans have been screaming this at the TV all last season. There was no identity to the team. It just didn't feel right. And the foundation of success for Vegas Golden Knights hockey has been based off of speed and constantly pushing their opponent to make the first move, basically. So yeah, I'm excited about it. Personally, I'm more excited about it than if they had Trotz. I mean, yes, Barry Trotz, very successful, and obviously he won a cup in Vegas's own barn, and that's going to always sting a little bit. But systematic hockey, boring hockey, no thanks. Not for me. That's not what made me fall in love with this team. So I'm excited. I think Bruce Cassidy's a good fit. He seems to have a chip on his shoulder too, because he was really bummed out that he got cut from Boston. As he said, he's like, yeah, it's not a revenge tour, but I definitely feel like I got something to prove. And I think that's going to be great for the team.
Yeah. I mean, it's a weird thing to say, and you probably will disagree with me to an extent, but I do feel like this is the first true coach that the Golden Knights have had that I feel can take them where they need to go. I never felt it with Gallant. I never felt it with DeBoer. So I think a guy coming in where he's like, the fuck did I do to get let go? What did I do wrong? And then like, all right, fuck you. Let's go somewhere else, try to win the whole thing is a, middle finger to Boston or whatever. But that being said, I mean, I don't know. I feel like Trotz to Winnipeg isn't a slam dunk still. It's
a slam dunk in a sense that you don't think it's a win for the team, or you don't think it's a sure thing?
I don't think it's a sure thing. You still have the Red Wings, technically. You still have technically the Dallas Stars. I mean,
didn't he turn down a $7 million offer to Philly? They tried to go after him first, which is just crazy.
He's just like, nah. So, I mean, it's a discussion of, where does he want to go? If he wants to build something back up, I mean, the Red Wings are the perfect spot. The Jets are in that weird spot where they're like floating between playoff bubble and non-playoff bubble. I don't think Trotz makes the difference there. The Stars, I think they have that weird blend of like, they have a couple of years where they could still make something crazy happen. I mean, we saw the bubble, completely different dynamic where they, went to the cup final, but Yeah, I mean, I think if Trotz wants a team where he's like, they're on the up and up. I have a lot of stuff I can do here that's great. I think the Red Wings would be the spot personally. You can sell the history of it. That being said, I feel like Steve Yzerman, also the GM there at the Red Wings, is a guy who's like, I'm gonna do something different. So he could go with someone completely off the books, someone who's just not on anyone's radar. We'll see. I feel like at that point, my opinion is if the Red Wings make a move first, or if this new confirmation comes out that Trotz is like, nah, I'm not going to Detroit. Trotz is either like, I'm not coaching anymore, or he's going to Winnipeg. I think at that point.
I think he's going to Winnipeg, and I think that it was all smoke and mirrors when he was entertaining the idea of going anywhere else. Like he went around to all these other cities and interviewed with teams, and then everyone's been real quiet about the term and pay for these coaches, for Tortorella, for Cassidy. And now we hear $7 million is on the line to make him the highest paid coach in the league currently. You don't think that he was going to go back to Winnipeg and be like, hey, they offered $7 million. What are we going to do about this? Maybe he felt like he was lowballed. I mean, I don't know. It seemed like all the hype and all the attention was underlining with him going to Winnipeg. It's his hometown. They're a contending team, like you said, on the bubble, kind of play a similar style. They're a big defense, heavy hitting team. Like it's something that he's used to coaching in the past with the Islanders and the Capitals and whatnot. So I think it was more so smoke and mirrors to get a little bit more money, maybe get what he wanted out of it. And I think it's inevitable he ends up there. I just can't see him doing much for Dallas, and Detroit is just so far away from building a team that he can actually utilize that. I mean, it just depends on what he would want to do. Is he going to spend the better part of the next 5 years building a team up? Is that what he wants to do, or does he want to win another cup?
I don't think Detroit's that far off at all.
Well, the goaltending is a huge problem still. Obviously, that's at least if he goes to Winnipeg, he's got Hellebuck, right? I mean, I'm not a huge Hellebuck fan, but at least he's got a renowned goalie in there.
He does. You're not wrong. However, they have almost $36 million in cap space at the moment, and they have no big names to sign. So take that.
Talking about Detroit,
yeah,
36 mil. Wow,
take that as you may. A lot of money.
Yeah, but I mean, who wants to go play for Detroit these days? That's another thing too, right? Like ever since they
got rid of Trotz,
maybe that's the hype they need. I mean, it seemed to me that they kind of gave up on any sort of immediate future when they traded what's his name? Who was their like big stud that they traded? Young guy, forward. He went on to.
Was it Vrana?
No, they got Vrana, right?
Oh, that's right.
They got Jacob Vrana, but it was that trade. It was Vrana for their like young guy that just kind of seemed out of left field. So they got a winger and I think a first round pick from the Capitals.
Yeah.
Oh, Anthony Mantha. Mantha.
Yeah, Mantha.
It seemed to me that they kind of just gave up on any immediate plans in order to build for the future. But if that's something he wants to be a part of, then I mean, I could see it. Prestigious team, or original six team. I mean, maybe he wants that on his resume. I who knows? But I will tell you this one thing: Tortorella to the Flyers is like insane to me. I mean, it's a fit. It makes perfect sense, right? Tough guy goes to a tough team, or at least a former tough team. But you got to feel somewhat bad for that guy. I mean, he's got all the makeup to be a Stanley Cup winning coach. I mean, he did it with Tampa, right? In like 2001? No, it wasn't that long ago. 2000.
Was Tampa winning the cup?
Yeah. When did he win the cup with Tampa? Was it really that long ago? 20 years?
I mean, I feel like it was 03 or 04.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, he's proven he can do it. I mean, he's a character. Obviously, his analytical career fell short. People didn't really like his opinions or his attitude, and he found his way back into the coaching realm, if you will. Yeah, I mean, it's exciting, but I feel for the guy. He doesn't really have a team at all to coach. So in that scenario, you are right. He is a coach that doesn't mind going to a team that's going to be going through a rebuild. So maybe Trotz is in the same boat.
Who knows? We'll see.
Who knows? But
I feel like this weekend we'll know. This weekend or early next week we'll.
I feel like Cassidy signing 6 days after he was fired, they kind of had an idea at that point that these other teams are going to start pulling the trigger. We're going to start to see announcements for these coaches for sure.
And like you said, as quiet as it's been, like when's the last thing you heard anything about Red Wings coaching at all, or like who's interviewing, or were they considering? Very, very close to the vest. So it makes you wonder.
Hey now, what's up, Goons? Tyler Cash here, and it's time to pause the podcast and chat a bit about our amazing sponsors over at Schlafly Brewing Company. Hockey and beer. Does it get any better? I don't think so. Schlafly has been brewing up some of the best beer I've ever had for many years, and it's officially that time of year for their famous Raspberry Hefeweizen. It's one of my personal favorites. Their Raspberry Hefeweizen distinguishes itself among others in that it's a true fruit beer. None of this fruit-flavored crap. It uses real raspberry in the brewing process. Once the fruit sugar ferments out, the aroma and flavor stay in, making this a delightful drinkable beer that's not too sweet or tart. It's refreshing and balanced with a natural hazy pink coloring. Because it's low in alcohol, it brings out a smooth dose of weediness, and it's perfect for summer. It's perfect for any time. Download the Schlafly app or visit schlafly.com to locate and devour yours today. That's SCHLAFLY.com. Schlafly Beer. Drink Mo Beer. This podcast is brought to you by 1 in a Million Handyman Services Incorporated. 1 in a Million is a family-run local company that's been serving the Las Vegas, Nevada area for over 15 years. They are licensed and insured throughout Clark County and travel as far as Boulder City, Henderson, Las Vegas, and North Las Vegas. 1 in a Million specializes in smaller home repairs, but also tackles commercial repairs. They've worked around the Strip, residential homes, commercial buildings, you name it, 1 in a Million has made their mark. With a 4.5-star Yelp review and countless of happy customers throughout the 15 years, you can guarantee you'll be happy with their services. All previous customers can refer an unlimited amount of friends and family for a $25 referral credit, which would come off of any future projects and or repairs if they decide to use 1 in a Million. This offer also extends to the Fourth Line Goon listeners. Mention this podcast and you will receive a $25 referral credit that will come off of the total cost of your repairs. 1 in a Million is open Monday through Saturday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., and you can find them on the web at juaninamill.com. That's JUANINAMILL.com, or you can also find them at juan.inamill on Instagram. 1 in a Million Handyman Services won't let you down. Check them out.
In more Vegas Golden Knights news, they traded successfully this time Evgeny Didanov. I always say that fucking name wrong.
Isn't it not Evgeny?
Evgeny, like Malkin.
Go.
Yeah,
Come on.
Evgeny Didanov traded successfully this time to the Montreal Canadiens for Shea Weber's contract. He's not playing hockey anymore. He's got an AAV of $8 million for the next 4 years. But I did find out. So I've been trying to break this down because it doesn't make sense to me. But if I can explain this very simply. The Montreal Canadiens get Dadonov for 1 year, okay, at his salary, which is, I believe, $6.5 million off the books for Vegas, okay? Vegas gets Shea Weber. He's not going to play. The LTIR cannot be used. It's used, but they can't add to it, right? Like it doesn't
until like the season officially starts.
Right, but they still can't exceed the cap, correct? Like it doesn't give them any extra wiggle room on the cap space. That's what I thought.
I think there's a small percentage you can go over during the off season. I think it's very, very small, maybe like 5%, maybe 10%, something like that. But I mean, that's almost equivalent to what his contract is anyway, if that's the case.
Somebody said online that his contract was insured. So I don't even know who the hell is going to be paying his money, like what that even means. Like,
yeah. So teams will sign, they'll basically buy an insurance policy for a player's contract and pay a heavy premium on it. So I would assume that would probably wouldn't just transfer teams. It would be between just like the premiums that were paid with the Canadians and what's being paid to him. So I'm sure if that is the case, most likely the Knights are only paying maybe 50% of that, maybe less. So it doesn't
Gotcha.
hurt them that much. But yeah, the team can exceed the cap by 10% in the offseason. So that's already more than what Shea Weber's LTR is by about 400, 500K. So I think it's fine. I think the only question is at that point is if you are, say, above it, I think you technically have to become cap compliant before you can start utilizing LTIR. So I think that's the tricky aspect. So like if you have $8 million that you're over and you're like, all right, let's try and send someone down to the minors or something, or trade somebody.
Yeah.
I don't know how exactly that's going to look, but I think that's the only other potential caveat to that.
I was just confused because if you pick up a player on LTIR during the regular season, you're allowed to exceed your cap for a set amount of time that they're on LTIR. So it's weird that when you acquire a player already on LTIR from another team, you can't utilize that cap space. I still don't fully understand it, but I do love the trade just because now I can say Shea Weber, Vegas Golden Knights legend, maybe get a jersey with his name and number on the back. But Dadonov was going to go anyways. And this is a much better deal for the Golden Knights. They don't have to give up a second-round pick. They don't have to take on a little bit of salary. It's just a 1-for-1. Shea Weber gone from Montreal's books onto the Golden Knights. And as they said, it was insured. So it sounds like it's a win-win for both teams. Dadonov is probably going to get an elevated role in Montreal. Like he's probably going to go on and do pretty damn well because they don't really have anybody over there that's scoring goals right now. Yeah. They had Cole Caulfield, who was a ghost for half the season, and Mike Hoffman, who was just playing absolutely horrible and not living up to his expectations as well. So, yeah, I mean, it brings a little bit of excitement to the Habs if you're a fan, and it brings a little cap relief to the Golden Knights, which is going to probably allow them that little bit of wiggle room to extend Riley Smith or sign on Wah, who is a restricted free agent, but he's going to be fetching at least 2-3 million. So they got to find these ways to cut corners still.
So I was just looking this up because it perfectly reminded me of a couple of years back when Steen went on LTIR in the offseason. And we had to sign Vince Dunn and a couple others, give us like $4.5 million in cap space. So according to Cap Friendly, this is a tweet that's 2.5 years old, December of 2020. For players placed on long-term IR during the offseason, you have that cap space to use in the offseason. However, if you do not use it all in the offseason, you do not have access to it during the regular season. So whatever cap space that Shea Weber is giving them. So say like right now, looking at Cap Friendly, they're going over by about 2.5 million. So they have 5 million to spare. If they don't use all that 5 million, say they only use 4 million or 4.5, that extra 500K, they can't touch anymore. Not even the regular season. So that's, I think, the caveat to it. But with what they have
they'd
planned,
have to sign the 8 million worth, right?
I mean, right now, I think they're sitting to like 2.5 million over as of this moment. So it would have to be another 5.5 mil or so, assuming that's correct.
Which is right. Which is Riley Smith. That's literally exactly. And you're replacing. You're essentially bringing back Riley Smith and sending off Dadonov. So you're getting a winger for a winger to be under the cap. So that would make sense for that price point.
But again, I think the other tricky aspect then still is, like I said, you only have 8 forwards under contract, 9 if you do Riley Smith. And then you still only have 1 goalie counted against the cap as well. So Riley Smith is probably going to need to come in around like 3 mil.
Yeah.
Or you're going to be shipping someone else out.
Maybe. I heard a little rumor going around, and completely unfounded. This isn't from me. This is just what I'm seeing on the Twitter sphere. But a lot of people are interested in bringing back Stastny because he lives in Vegas and he's kind of at the end of his career. And why not sign $1 million 1-year deal to play in the city that you live in, where your kids play hockey, where you don't have to like travel to Winnipeg, like he doesn't have to go to Canada to play hockey. But yeah, I looked this up. So we were talking about this and he had himself a hell of a year. So I guess he could fetch a paycheck somewhere, but he had 21 goals and 24 assists for 45 points in 71 games. And that's for a 36-year-old center. I mean, that's pretty crazy. But I mean, if you can get a guy like Stastny or potentially Bergeron, if he really wanted to follow Cassidy for one more year, find a guy that just kind of wants one last hurrah for $1 million. I mean, that could be a steal and kind of help the team out as far as cap gymnastics go.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of ways you can go with it. Let's keep the off-season stuff for the off-season. We still got a couple more weeks left. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
But that being said, I think it kind of leads into the other important point is what I think Bettman yesterday or today announced that the revenue for the NHL was over $5 billion this year, which is a record.
Crazy to think, right? We were just in a horrible pandemic situation, bubble hockey, boring ass shit, not being able to attend games. And then here we are, we have saying they have that much revenue. Like, that's just crazy. Where's that coming from?
Yeah, well, it's a TV deal.
Okay. Yeah. The brand new TV deal.
Yeah, I think it's double what they were getting before. I think it's like around like 600 mil, a little bit over 600 mil. So like that's over half $500 million at that point. I was just looking this up. So like you keep that in mind that's basically gone up, extra 300-400 million. I think it's at a point where I guess the best way to put it is I think the NHL revenue, its peak. It's basically, if you take it in the factor in from what I saw, the increase in the TV revenue, it's pretty much the same as it was right pre-pandemic. So it's gone up, but not to the extent I think that the NHL wants at this point still, let alone the players. And I know the next question is like, what about the cap? What's next? Well, problem is you still have all of that money the players still have to pay back. That's an escrow. Right. So it's probably going to be another year or two before it's significantly
because they announced today that it's going up for sure $1 million. So it'll be 82.5 million next season with a cap ceiling of that. Cap bottom is 61 somewhere in that. Yeah. And at least it's progress, right? Like, I mean, with everything that went down with the pandemic and the bubble, it didn't look like the cap was going to go up at all for quite some time. So it's a movement in the right direction, and hopefully it continues to trend that way so that we can see these teams that are having these issues, that have these superstar talent and these good markets, be able to build from. And honestly, even teams that aren't superstar markets with high class players are going to benefit from this as well. It's just good for the sport all around. But yeah, it's good to hear. I think it was a little north of $5 billion in revenue, as you said. So, something to celebrate for sure. Yeah, I mean that pretty much brings us up to date so far. Is there anything that you want to add as far as this series is going? I mean, do you still feel confident that Tampa's going to turn it on, or are we going to see the Avs just dominate this entire postseason?
In my opinion, John Cooper is the coach of every team which they had. I mean, he said it perfectly, like in the press conference where he's like, yeah, better team won tonight. Basically we all need to be better essentially. So I think message sent. I mean, I'm expecting the Lightning to win game 2. If they don't, like, it's a very uphill battle, but I mean, we'll talk about that when we talk about it. I mean, next week when we talk, we'll be at what?
Halfway through.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
If we do it Tuesday, if we do it Thursday, it'll be either game 3 or 4. So yeah, we'll see. But
I think we'll be able to tell a lot from game 2. I think we're both in agreement on that for sure.
Yeah, 100%. So I mean, outside of that, yeah, I mean, how talented team in the Avalanche against, again, I think a team that's not as talented but a little more structured with a better goaltender. So
here's the question though. Obviously, I feel like the popular opinion is Cale Makar would be the MVP if the Avs wind up winning. Who do you think would be the MVP for the Lightning if they wind up pulling through?
I still think it's hard to not say Kucherov. I mean, Vasilevsky hasn't played to those elite standards. I mean, he has in those, clinching games, still those insane numbers. He's out of like 2 goals and like 7 clinching games or something stupid.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, Kucherov has, I think, the most points out of anyone playing at this point in the Stanley Cup Final. That's not Draisaitl and McDavid. I mean,
where's Kucherov sitting? Because I wouldn't undermine Stamkos either. 7
goals, 17 assists, 24 points. I mean,
okay.
Stamkos is 15 points, so he's significantly off.
Yeah.
I mean, outside of that, Vasilevsky hasn't played bad at all. I mean, he has he has the best stats from a goaltending standpoint, 0.926 save percentage, 2.36 goals against in the playoffs, 12-6. The problem is, I don't think those numbers, I think you're probably creeping back up more to like a 91 something save percentage and a 2.5 goals against if you win the series against the Avalanche. So I think it's hard not to go with the forward unless Vasilevsky somehow pitches like 2 shutouts.
And I don't see that happening. I think this whole series is just going to be fast paced, high scoring for sure.
My only caveat to that is we saw how frustrating that Cirelli line was, the Zibanejad line in the Eastern Conference Final. If you get that same sort of result when you play in Tampa against the McKinnon line or whatever you're going for there, I mean, easy enough for Vasilevsky, I think, to get some 1-goal games, assuming all goes to plan, or even a shutout potentially.
All right, so we want to thank you guys so much for tuning in to the Fourth Line Goon Hockey Podcast. We want to thank you, our sponsors, Schlafly and 1 in a Million Handyman Services. Make sure you check them out. The weather is hot out there, so refresh yourself with a cold beer for sure. Check out them at schlafly.com. And I believe it's oneandamill.com. We're going to answer some of your guys' questions. Really appreciate you. Make sure that if you are listening or watching this podcast, you're subscribed on our YouTube. We've been uploading not only these episodes, but little fun segments. Like I said, I uploaded the PBS thing that I did, and also any sort of credible fights that we see this postseason, which I don't know that we'll see anything necessarily. I guess like if we would, it would be Patty Maroon dropping the gloves. That would be my prediction. But yeah, let's answer some questions. It's Ella on Twitter wants to know, what do you think Cassidy will do with Leonard? I mean, I as much as it's probably going to pain some fans to hear this, Leonard's the starter. You're paying him. He's not going anywhere. You have to move forward, right? Like, I mean, as exciting as it would be to bring Fleury back, it's probably not going to happen. This isn't a Disney movie. This is real life, and they've committed to Robin Leonard and they believe in him. He got these surgeries in the off season right away. That's who they're going to go for. He's going to be in that game 1. That's just how it is. Now Brossoit, that's another question. He might be moved out. Thompson might be a solidified backup, and they might keep Leonard on a tight leash. That's what my prediction is.
Yeah, I mean, new coach, new system. Leonard's your starter. That's simple as that. I'm gonna put it straight toward as I can.
Now I will say this: Cassidy has been known. He did give Swayman the net, like over Tuukka and over Allmark. He did give Swayman the opportunity to show what he had. So I do think Cassidy's excited about having a younger, faster team. So maybe Leonard's playing style might not fit what he wants, but if you're winning, you're winning. So next question is going to be, these are all VGK questions so far, but we'll do one more. Knights Forever on Twitter wants to know, who do you think will benefit the most from the Bruce Cassidy coaching style? The one thing I want to talk about is he said he digs a fast-paced team. He wants to score goals. He doesn't really want to see his team winning 2-1. With that being said, I think he's gonna let players have fun, and that's the number one priority there. I think you're gonna see standout seasons from guys like William Karlsson, Shea Theodore, just guys that have been known to put the puck in the net in years past, but maybe have not done so well the past couple seasons under DeBoer's system. And I think that's a great thing. It's also going to allow players, if they're healthy, like Pacioretty and Marchessault, you're going to see these guys being more active on the power play. And that was another thing he said. He was like, I'm going to drive offense from my forwards, not my D. And so that's my 2 cents on that.
Yeah, I think it'll be curious to see how he handles Jack Eichel and what role he plays. I also, my money would be on it for someone to have, assuming he stays and his rumors aren't founded and he's not traded. I think, for someone to rebound, I think it's William Karlsson for sure.
Yeah, I know a lot of people are hyped because that Boston connection with Eichel and Cassidy, like that's the first time they've actually gotten a chance to work together. So that's pretty exciting. Can we fit in one more? Yep, here we go. All right, Stash Bramer, we'll answer this real quick. Probably one of the dumbest questions I've asked. Will the NHL change the rule on video review to make sure penalties are called properly? No, it's here to stay.
Too much. It takes too much fucking time. You can have 10 stoppages a game to look at video. No thanks.
Yeah, it's not going anywhere either. They're going to keep it how it's been. It's something they've only implemented now ever since not a major. So it's here to stay, at least for the foreseeable future. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. fourthlinegoon.com. Add us on Twitter. Cheers, everybody.
Later, guys.